DVB Digital Fast.
Hello and welcome to the DVB Newsroom. I'm your host Nora. Joining me today is Aung Ko Ko, a peace-building scholar-practitioner. He's also the Executive Director of Mosaic Myanmar. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
To start off, can you tell me what Mosaic Myanmar is and when it started?
So we started in 2016. You may remember the serious communal violence we have been happened in around 2012, 2013. So that's for me we need to do something to counter intercommunal tensions, intercommunal harmony, and to protect minorities and to promote the peaceful, Myanmar. So that's how and when we started in Mosaic Myanmar in 2016.
Why you felt this kind of work was needed in Myanmar?
For me, it's really important when you see the Myanmar society is terribly divided and too much violence, and the minorities has been faced historical inequality and injustice. So that's why we, as a mosaic, we have been addressing those kind of inequality and historical injustice and trying to, push key policy actors to formulate the integration of those minorities in future federal democratic Myanmar. So, I mean, for me, in this divided society context, our work is really important.
Can you explain what social integration is and how important it is in Myanmar?
When we think about the vision of Mosaic Myanmar in 2016, our main focus is how can we build inclusive society. So when we talk about the inclusion, we need to understand the marginalization of the minorities. When we talk about the marginalization, almost all of the minorities has been marginalized from the state's power, from in terms of access to education, access to health, access to employment. Even when you look at the equality, the people from Yangon and the people from the rest of the country they have a huge inequality in terms of electricity, access to electricity, in terms of access to education, employment opportunities. So I mean, that's why we are state divided society. That's why if we value the inclusion, if we value the integration or the vulnerable community, I think we can achieve a peaceful society in Myanmar.
What does the lack of social integration look like in everyday life?
So I mean, politically, if you are excluded in political sector, the minority cannot have a decision-making power for their everyday work. And when you look at the women, if they are excluded from the political power in the decision-making power, they cannot, participate in the society. So I mean, if you are a minority, and especially like a Rohingya and other minorities who have been marginalized, excluded from those kind of power and privilege, you cannot fully participate in the society. So and then that's how you excluded from society, and then and then this exclusion impact to your daily life, So you don't have, if you don't have, for example, for the Rohingya and other unofficial minorities who don't have birthright citizenship in Myanmar because of the 1982 citizenship law. So that's why some of them defer to statelessness, some of them are de jure statelessness, and then if you don't have of course in simple terms, if you don't have a citizenship card, you cannot go to in Myanmar, you cannot go to the prestigious university, and then you cannot open the bank account, you cannot participate in the election. So I mean, different way you can exclude, and then this exclusion, this structural exclusion can affect your everyday lives.
How did you first become involved in this work, and who is on your team?
So, as I mentioned before, I'm myself coming from the minority backgrounds, and I have been facing like my personal, like discrimination from different, angle. But the thing, that's how I started Mosaic. But I'm when we talk about the Mosaic team, our team is composed with different young people from different diversity, different ethnic and religious backgrounds who committed, who believe in the inclusive society in Myanmar.
Why did you choose to focus on inclusion and belonging in Myanmar?
After the independence from the British, Myanmar still lack of inclusive national identity and the stable political system and very divided. So that's why the even after the military coup in 2021, when you look at the resistance forces, when you look at the civil society, we are still fragmented, and sometimes we are seeing factionalism among the political actors. So that's why we have to championing the inclusion in every level of the society. So that's how we can achieve inclusive national identity. That's how we can achieve sustainable peace in Myanmar.
Myanmar faced many challenges with social integration during the transition period. How were you able to work in communities with intercommunal conflict?
Before the coup, we didn't notice how much our society is divided. Right now, after the coup, when you look at the northern Shan state, when you look at the Rakhine, when you look at the Chin state, obviously you can see how much communal tension is happening. Right? So for me, I do really believe in communal dialogue and communal mediation. So we cannot find the solution. We cannot find the solution. We cannot solve the communal problem with coercion, with arms. So we need to sit together. And then we need to make a dialogue together, and then we need to find a solution. How can we live peacefully? So peaceful coexistence is really important, for Myanmar. So this peaceful coexistence cannot achieve through coercion, but dialogue.
So what did you learn from those experiences about what works and what does not?
In my experience, we don't have any strong institution or platform or process where can our disagreement, our argument, our problem discuss and find a solution. So when you look at the institutions, right now after the military coup and 4 years of the armed revolution and civil war and resistance, when you look there's no institution to take these kind of problems properly and efficiently. So but the good thing is after the coup, the majority people and minorities people, especially young people, they have been working together, on the ground. They have been fighting against military junta, together. So the understanding, the people-to-people understanding, community-to-community understanding between majority and minorities, and also minority and minorities within minority, has been improved in my assessment. But the problem is that we are still lack of institution to go forward, and to solve the communal problem peacefully.
In 2017, the Myanmar military carried out horrific attacks against the Rohingya community in northern Rakhine. This led to charges of genocide at the International Court of Justice. Have you been working with the Rohingya in Rakhine?
So, well, of course, we are not, of course, as we are prioritizing the inclusion and integration of the marginalized community in Myanmar, Rohingya is one of them, the most marginalized, the most vulnerable community in Myanmar, especially, actually, we have been noted, most of the observer, we have been noted the genocidal violence campaign against Rohingya community in 2017. But according to our research, it's happening, it's not happening since the Nehru era. So I mean, like also 1989. So I mean, like, and then like we also 1982 citizenship law, and then associated 135 national risk classification system make then like statelessness, and then of course in 2012, 2013, and then 2017, finally like the military had been committed genocide and violence against Rohingya. So I mean, like that's why like we don't. We do believe like that any future political system, whether like transitional arrangement or a new constitutional making process, need to prioritize the inclusion, the integration of those like Rohingya peoples. So because like I really believe like if our political system can accommodate like the most vulnerable groups within the country, I mean like these kind of political system can be stable, can be can achieve the peace for the long term.
Do you think enough people in Myanmar have truly reckoned with what the Rohingya crisis exposed?
I think like I'm changed like before the military coup in 2021, like most of the Myanmar people they didn't know so much about so much about the situation of Rohingya. No, because like when you look at the formal curriculum, there's no word about Rohingya. So like when you look at the media, there's most of the media like framing Rohingya as are like illegal migrant. They're not part of the society. So I mean very negatively. So that's why like people didn't understand how much Rohingya have been suffer, But after the 2021 military coup, I've been seeing like young people, especially some they give apology to Rohingya, and they show the sympathy, empathy to the Rohingya people. So, but as I mentioned before, like the people has been understanding, but the problem we stay is like how the political leaders, solve like this problem. If not, like the people accept what I see, sometimes very fragile. Today you accept the Rohingya, tomorrow you got angry with the Rohingya. So I mean, like it's really, really fragile, I would say. So, but because like this fragility is also coming from the problem or lack of like institution.
Which other areas of the country do you focus your attention on?
So right now, like our focus is. Of course, minorities, the marginalized minority, vulnerable minority, because one of our commitment is that we need to protect minorities. And so that's why like every community is, I would say, like somehow minorities in different contexts. And so, of course, like the Rakhine, the Rohingya people is one of our areas to understand what's going on, and also we call it unofficial minorities who are not listed as a 135 nationalist system. So when ethnic Nepalese people we call Koraka, and like ethnic Chinese or call, and then Hindu people like Muslim people. So they're minorities, but they have in Myanmar we have a considerable amount of the population. They never been part of the Myanmar federal political discussions. So I mean, like of course, like we have been working for that.
Are the challenges similar across the country, or are they very different depending on local history?
When we talk about the marginalized community, vulnerable community, the context is quite different. For example, like I don't know anything after the 2021 military coup. I don't know what's really happening, or like we have in Zagainam we have a Portuguese descendant people they are also an official minority. Like when they apply their like citizenship card, like they have been facing a lot of difficulty. Was like according to our research. So I don't know what's going on with these people. And also. The Burmese people, in Burmese Muslim people in Zakai and Magwe. So and also like the Muslims in Karemu and Tanindari. So I mean different contact. And also like when you look at the ethnic Nepalese people, Koraka, like they are residing not only in TNLA control area but also in KIA control area. I don't know how different their life is, how different, and I mean, like, it's really important to understand, and like and also sometimes they may be like community mediator because they are not part of the conflict, So they are minority. Most of them, they are minorities within minorities. So I mean, like, so in geographical coverage, well, as Mosaic, like we have been, I would say, like very nationwide, but I mean, like very like a particular group, we have been paying attention.
The military staged a coup in 2021 and in the transition period. Since then, how has Mosaic Myanmar been able to continue its work?
So if I mean, we have been living transition after transition. For example, in 1988, it's called transition, and then like the SLORC government came in, it's a transition. The SPDC government came in, it's a transition, and then 2010 election is a transition. The 2015 election, NLD came in, it's a transition. Right now at 2021, after the coup, it's a transition, and then after right now, I mean, what my point is like we. Our community, our society is very much unstable, very much fragile, So I mean, like, but the positive thing is like we are now in the crossroads of everything, So if we realize how much our people deserve like a peaceful life, I think like all of the political stakeholders sit together and then make more peaceful transition, a meaningful transition, So and then like how and then we can like pave the way, pave the way for more like peaceful community in future, So but because like we have been suffer a lot, so when you look at the like food displacement, refugees, how many houses we have been banned, So I mean like and then. I mean, too much violence we have been occurred actually since independence. So I mean, like, so I think this is a good time. Historically, this is a very important time to reimagine our country more peaceful and more democratic and like federalized country.
Has the post-coup environment made honest dialogue harder or in some way more urgent?
When we talk about the dialogue, I mean. Of course, like we don't have a culture of dialogue, So our society is very much militarized and very much, the way how we solve the problem is more coercive, more forcibly, action. So I mean, like dialogue culture is quite important. So, but in reality, my personal assessment is like I don't see any when we talk about the dialogue between like resistant groups. As I mentioned before, we need like institutions to take care of like to make proper dialogue, with the proper like design. So when we talk about the like military and the resistant groups, for me, like personally, I don't see any good faith of the military to make genuine dialogue yet. So I mean, it's really difficult. So I mean. So of course, like I'm a conflict resolution petitioner and peace building petitioner. I mean, not only in Myanmar but also like worldwide. We are now minorities. Like I mean, the international the global conflict and even Myanmar conflict is quite undermining the rule of the conflict resolution petitioner and the power of the dialogue.
Now, a lot of people talk about federal democracy as the answer for Myanmar's future, but from your perspective, what is still missing from that conversation?
Of course, like when we talk about the dialogue, like peaceful society, federalism, democracy, inclusion, whatever we name it, because we need those kind of policies and structural change. But the thing, like what we are missing is like a transitional justice, which is in a way, how can we do our best, properly. If not, like we cannot find a solution because, like I see, like different community have been suffer in different way in different periods. Some people have been suffer or in 1960 Some people have been suffer in I mean like 1970s. Some people have been suffer in 1950s. So and then like Rohingya people have been suffer mostly in 2017. Right now, like the people from Rakhine and Magui and Nya people suffer in 2021 to until now. So I mean like we have a lot of stigma. We have a lot of traumas. So if we don't understand those kind of historical trauma and individual social stigma, we cannot have a like consensus or agreement like among different actors to design the federal constitution and to design for the like inclusion of the minorities. So I mean like according to your question, back to your question is we for me like the missing dynamic in the current dialogue is we still don't know how to properly address our past injustice and inequalities for different communities.
So, what will make a future political settlement genuinely inclusive?
I mean, like if you think about the most vulnerable group to their accommodation, and also, of course, and also the women and other gender identities, because in every society they are powerless, right? So they have been, they are very much potential to face inequality or oppressions. Like for the future, any political design, I mean, like if we aim to integrate these people, if we aim to respect, these people, I think we are not only for these people, but also the whole country can, enjoy a peaceful life.
You have launched a podcast on Facebook called Inclusive Future Myanmar. What does that name mean to you?
So I mean, there's a series of podcasts. We already produced 2 podcasts. The first one is citizenship, because as I mentioned before, citizenship is quite important. Like not only for Rohingya and other Asian minority, but also when you look at the political activists, they have been, the military strip their citizenship status, and then we have been millions of refugee and food displaced people here in Thailand, Malaysia. So and then how can we redesign citizenship? How can we imagine new citizenship regimes for the equal belonging with dignity? So that's why we made the podcast of citizenship. The another one is inclusive federalism. We have sometimes we call multicultural federalism, like the federalism who can accommodate all of the cultural groups. That's a second podcast we did. And another podcast we are going to produce is religion. Whether we like it or not, religion is really, really important in our everyday life. In our every political thought is very much influenced by our religions, right? So I mean, we have been also facing religious extremism, religion nationalism in Myanmar, religious riot in Myanmar. So I mean, and that's why how can our religions in Myanmar transform to the as a tool of the peace. And rather than as a source of the conflict, and this is the first one is Muslim integrations, including Rohingya, Muslim and Rohingya have been marginalized. How can we design the constitution? What kind of policy we should think about to integrate those kind of minority? The fifth one is transition and justice, it's very much important, and the last one we have been we aim to produce the podcast is electoral designs. Our society is quite a diversity, so it's how can we design the electoral design, whether FPTP or PR or MIS or parallel. I don't know, because we bring of course some expert to draft our script, and then we produce the podcast accordingly. So I mean this is a 6 topic which is really important for the peaceful transition, and not only peaceful transition, but also the future constitution and making process. Of course we under the name of the Inclusive Future Myanmar project.
Why did you feel now was the right time to launch it?
Well, like as I mentioned before, it's across our society, like for the nation building, for the state building, for the new constitution, for the new Myanmar. So I mean, like for the new Myanmar, these 6 topics important. That's why, like, we decided to produce these 6 live podcasts.
So before we end, is there anything else would you like to add?
I think we have been covered like different various topics. So thank you for inviting me. And then like through and also like the I really value the role of the media. And then like these like as a civil society, I really appreciate how media highlight our work. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.